Good evening and welcome to the Weekend Review here on CMC3. A special welcome to our viewers in North America joining us via the CIN network. The government continued to face strong criticism from the public this past week as questions on how 31-year-old Reshmi Ramnarine was appointed to head the Security Intelligence Agency, one of the country's top intelligence gathering units, without proper qualifications. After telling the parliament 1 week ago that Ramnarine was qualified, the National Security Minister admitted on Tuesday that he was wrong.
It was misinformation.
A hesitant admission from National Security Minister Brigadier John Sandy that Reshmi Ramnarine's appointment to head the SIA was an error. Last Friday in the Parliament, as he defended 31-year-old Ramnarine's appointment, he boasted she was well qualified for the position. That, he says, was based simply on advice.
I was advised that she was qualified, that's why I made the statement.
So you're advised now that she's not?
Yes, I'm advised now that she's not.
Minister Sandy, as a senior member of the National Security Council, confirmed today that he never saw her qualifications and her appointment was based solely on a recommendation. But neither Minister Sandy nor other government ministers could point to the source of the recommendation.
Who recommended Ms. Ramnarine?
I don't know.
What is her future now in the organization?
I don't know either.
I prefer not to comment on this entire episode. It is really under the purview of national security, and Minister Sandy, I think, has spoken. So I prefer not to trespass on national security matters.
Do you know who put forward the recommendation?
No, I do not.
Minister Sandy said he never interviewed Ms. Ramnarine, nor could he say whether she was ever interviewed for the position of director of the SIA. He would not say whether he agreed with or opposed Ramnarine's appointment, saying it was a matter discussed by the National Security Council. One newspaper report has suggested that Minister Sandy was the lone minister who opposed her recommendation. The opposition has already indicated its intention to refer Minister Sandy to Parliament's Privileges Committee, but opposition leader Dr. Keith Rowley says given all that has transpired, the minister should resign.
A minister of government says that it was an error. They appointed somebody without the necessary basic information to head a security agency, and they took a recommendation from a subordinate person. And what am I supposed to do now? Understand that, accept it, and excuse it?
The appointment of the SIA director has raised a number of questions about the transparency in this appointment since Ms. Ramnarine was labelled as the whistleblower to the UNC in the lead-up to the May 24th general elections. But Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Suraj Rambachan was not too worried about the impact this would have on the party's image. For CNC3, I'm Kamal Georges.
The minister would issue an official apology on Thursday prior to Friday's parliamentary sitting, saying that it was never his intention or the intention of the government to mislead the parliament and the country on the credentials of Reshmi Ramnarine, who was appointed director of the SIA. And Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar was insisting that members of the media and the public drop the issue when asked about it on Wednesday.
Reshmi Ramnarine's appointment as director of the SSA has been a public embarrassment to government. The Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar says she will not accede to opposition leader Dr. Rowley's call for an apology.
Mr. Rowley has called upon me to apologize for every single thing I've done. I'm sorry, I will not make him happy in that regard.
With a number of unanswered questions about Ramnarine's qualifications and just who recommended her for the job, the Prime Minister insisted it was time to move on.
There was a recommendation. She has now resigned, given the exposure, as she explained it, and I think we need to move forward.
On Tuesday, National Security Minister Brigadier John Sandy admitted he did not know who recommended Ramnarine for the job, nor could he say if she was interviewed for the position. However, Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar insists he was well aware of the decision.
Mr. Sandy is a member of the National Security Council and was present at the meeting, as well as at the meeting of the Cabinet.
According to the Prime Minister, it was the Deputy Director of the SSA who made the recommendation for the interim position. Despite reports, it was a mutual friend and advisor in the office of the Prime Minister. But how does someone as unqualified as Ms. Ramnarine get appointed to such a crucial national security post? When asked if Ms. Ramnarine was ever interviewed for the position, the Prime Minister went on the defensive.
I don't think it's important at this point. Ms. Ramnarine was a working member. You know what is very interesting? She has been working there for the past 6 years. And suddenly this has become such a great issue. How come no questions were asked before? When she had been employed by this very agency
Mrs. Prasad Bisesa refused to say if Ms. Ramnarine lied on her resume, telling the media it was enough that she had resigned and it was time to move on. Government is now in search of a new interim director, but when asked if the process would be transparent, she was vague in her response. For CNC3, I'm Kamal Georges.
The matter would develop even further as the media were blocked from asking questions on the issue at Thursday's post-cabinet media conference. From the onset, the media were told at the post-cabinet media conference not to ask questions on the Rashmi Ramnarine fiasco.
The cabinet did have what I understand to be full, complex, substantial discussions on one of the issues occupying and generating a lot of public attention, but it is not a matter that either minister is briefed upon to address any questions or to respond to any questions about, because the discussions and the deliberations about that remain still on the cabinet table.
But at the question session, both ministers were asked to comment on the issue. They would be guarded.
The matter is under consideration. There's not more I can say on it at this point in time.
But then this question about photos with the Education Minister and Rashmi Ramnarine.
You may be aware, Dr. Gopi, saying that there's a particular photograph circulating on Facebook with yourself, showing yourself and the young lady in question at a particular, I think it's Trotters or something or the other. The photo seems to suggest that the two of you know each other. Do you have any personal knowledge of this woman? Could you put on your... Do you know her personally?
No, not personally. I just know her.
Minister Gopi Singh is also seen on his Facebook page with former journalist Sasha Mohammed, who's now special events advisor to the Prime Minister. Mohammed is a friend of Ramnarine. We were blocked when we asked the minister if his meeting with Ramnarine was at Mohammed's farewell party at Trotters.
So we won't take the question, Samson. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
This week saw the start of the Commission of Inquiry into the 1990 insurrection by Muslim fundamentalist group, the Jamaat al-Muslimin. The sitting began with the viewing of a video recording of the event, and the commissioner making it clear that the leader of the Jamaat al-Muslimin, Imam Yazid Abu Bakr, and the 113 insurrectionists who took part in the attempted coup cannot be prosecuted even if the commission finds them culpable. And former Prime Minister Arthur N.R. Robinson gave testimony on Tuesday and told the Commission of Inquiry he was prepared to die when armed insurrectionists stormed the Parliament chamber on the afternoon of Friday, July 27, 1990.
Although the man who led the country through its darkest hour arrived at the Commission of Inquiry into the 1990 coup, requiring assistance out of his wheelchair, unable to hear out of his left ear, and showing signs of frailness like any other 84-year-old, his recollection of the 6 days the country was under siege left the commissioners, the media, staff and members of the public engrossed and spellbound as he detailed graphically and at times poignantly the chaos which prevailed. The man who sat in the Prime Minister's chair at the time of the insurrection in 1990, Arthur N.R. Robinson, told the commissioners he was prepared to die. Mr. Robinson said on the afternoon of Friday, July 27, 1990, he was in Parliament for a corruption debate when he heard the sound of gunshots and shattering glass before seeing men he described as ruffians storming shouting, "Where's Robbie? Where's Cello?" in reference to himself and then National Security Minister Selwyn Richardson. He told the inquiry 2 police officers assigned to him threw themselves on him to shield him from harm. Mr. Robinson says total confusion reigned.
It was total chaos. There were gunshots, there were people screaming, all sorts of things.
The former Prime Minister says he soon realized the armed insurgents were members of the Jamaat al-Muslimin who showed no respect for the office he held and were not afraid to harm him.
The instruments by which they bound me were quite sharp, and as I tried to move, they cut into my flesh, both my hands and my feet.
So real was his dread of the men that the former Prime Minister says he refused anything to eat or drink during the 6 days he was held hostage, since he was convinced he would be poisoned. But even as he lay bound and unaware of the well-being of his cabinet ministers, family and state of the country, the former Prime Minister says he was not willing to accept what he says was the impertinent and repulsive behavior of the Jamaat's second-in-command, Bilal Abdullah, to tell the army the government had been overthrown. This is when he says death inched closer to becoming a reality.
So I shouted to the regiment, "These are murderers. and the torturers attack with full force. My medical advisors told me that if the bullet had diverted about half an inch differently, I would have died in a short space of time.
Questioned about his witness statement by lead counsel for the commission, senior counsel Avery Sinanan, the 84-year-old Prime Minister says he recalled Winston Ducran, then a member of the NAR government, which he led, telling him that they should negotiate. And while he could not remember how long after the Jamaat stormed the parliament the suggestion was made, he said he directed Mr. Ducran to lead the negotiations. Mr. Robinson said he had no input in the talks. He also recounted how one of the architects of the negotiations, Anglican Canon Dean Nolly Clark, saw him lying on the floor in the Red House and walked past him without acknowledging him or even inquiring about his condition. Asked whether Patrick Manning or Basil Opande were in Parliament when the insurrectionists stormed the chamber, the former Prime Minister said neither were there. He says during the ordeal his strength returned when he received a note from his now deceased wife Patricia.
I read the note, only 3 words. I love you. Patricia was my wife. And that strengthened me, buoyed my spirits up tremendously.
The former Prime Minister will continue to give evidence on dates yet to be announced. For CNC3, I'm Melissa Williams.
Asked why he did not request that the Patrick Manning government, which took power in 1995, investigate the insurrection, he also admitted to issues there.
It did not occur to me that there would be any point in seeking to do that, because there were reports that Mr. Manning was in some way implicated in the matter.
Mr. Robinson would later tell the commissioners he had no tangible evidence on Mr. Manning. Both Mr. Manning and Mr. Pandey had left the parliament before the insurrectionists struck. Mr. Robinson said he never thought in subsequent years to ask both men why they were not there, believing that such a question would have been met with great hostility. But he said he was happy that an inquiry into the country's darkest hour is finally being held. For CNC3, I am Kamal Georges.
Former Prime Minister Basil Opande says he was shocked at the testimony given to the Commission of Inquiry in 1990 by the then Prime Minister Arthur N.R. Robinson.
My first reaction was shock. My second reaction was anger. And my third reaction was sympathy.
During his testimony to the Commission of Inquiry into the 1919 attempted coup, former Prime Minister A.N.R. Robinson accused Basil Opande of trying to bring down the NAR government. Mr. Pandey's then ULF faction had broken ranks with the NAR government led by Robinson and was sitting on the opposite bench. But Mr. Pandey says it is dishonest to link his opposition with the insurrection.
I had not participated in the aftermath of that coup. If the commission wants to hear that from me, I'd be willing to tell them that, but that's all I know about it.
This is the Weekend Review. We'll take a short break and come back with more.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Craft.
And more from
Review. The Prime Minister is admitting that she's not satisfied. Welcome back to the Weekend Review. The Prime Minister is admitting that she's not satisfied with the pace of change and she will be meeting with her ministers to deal with bottlenecks in their respective ministries. On Monday, the Prime Minister celebrated 1 year of being elected political leader of the United National Congress.
Prices, of course, as you say. We stand in support of the nation.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar had much to celebrate. On January 24th, it marked a year since her election as the UNC political leader, an election which she says was to change her life and the history of the nation, as within months she would rise to Prime Minister. A meteoric rise for her, and she thanked her supporters at Rienzi Complex on Monday. She assured that the $7.7 billion placed in the public sector investment program will benefit every electoral district.
What this means, there will be work for small contractors and for all of you in communities in 134 electoral districts. UNC, COP, MSJ, TOP, PLM, it doesn't matter. It is all of Trinidad and Tobago.